This was Berlin in 1931. The Weimar Republic was in its final years, operating in a precarious mix of avant-garde creativity and deep-seated social anxiety. That unease was amplified by physical terror. Headlines broadcast the acts of serial killers, like Peter Kürten, who stalked civilians and evaded the police. The film industry navigated its own chaotic transition. The familiar silent era was being replaced by the unproven synchronized machinery of the talkie. The collision of civilian fear and untested audio technology turned the cinema into a testing ground for a different type of psychological suspense. The man in this portrait is Fritz Lang. Having already mastered silent science fiction with Metropolis, he now pivoted his focus toward the psychological thriller. His new project was originally titled Murderer Among Us. Lang's challenge was to manufacture suspense now that the comforting silence of the theater was gone. While other directors treated sound as a novelty, simply pointing microphones at actors to record dialogue, Lang viewed the audio track as something that could be actively manipulated to generate dread. This rejection of standard recording techniques forced Lang to find a way to make sound feel as threatening as the images on screen. Lang's first decision was to strip the background noise away. He used heavy silence to make the audience lean forward in their seats. Through props like this vintage radio, Lang established the film's core disruption. He punctuated the silence by broadcasting a single, repeating audio cue into the environment. This introduced the cinematic leitmotif. By attaching a specific sound to a specific character, Lang forced the audience to hear the murderer lurking in the shadows before he ever appeared. The cue itself was unsettling. The unseen killer whistles Edvard Grieg's In the Hall of the Mountain King. Taking a cheerful nursery rhyme tune and twisting it into a signal of an approaching crime subverts the audience's expectations. This birthed the sound trademark, the same audio tension mechanic that directors from Hitchcock to Spielberg would use to build off-screen pressure. This wide-eyed face belongs to Peter Lorre. Before this film, Lorre was a comedic stage actor. Lang cast him as Hans Beckert, moving away from the exaggerated monsters of the silent era towards something more grounded and unsettling. Beckert is not a supernatural ghoul. He is a pathetic, sweating human being, driven by an internal compulsion he cannot control. Lorre's performance creates a specific kind of horror. As he writhes and begs for his life, the film forces the audience to feel a flicker of pity for a predator they should despise. Lang uses this hunt to deliver a layer of social commentary. As the police launch a citywide manhunt for the killer, the constant raids disrupt the business of Berlin's criminal underworld. Losing money and frustrated by the police presence, the city's thieves and mobsters come to an ironic solution. They organize their own manhunt to catch the killer and get the law off their backs. To track him through the crowded streets, a beggar slaps a palm coated in white chalk onto the killer's back. This literal mark turns an invisible psychological threat into a defined physical target, showing how Lang could track a character's fate without a single line of dialogue. When the criminals finally corner Beckert, the film abandons the standard police chase. Instead, the climax takes place within the walls of a dimly lit basement. The forces of the underworld hold a kangaroo court. Surrounded by thieves and murderers, the child killer is put on trial by his peers. Having criminals act as judge and jury creates a philosophical conflict. Beckert argues he is violently compelled by madness, while the criminals argue a threat to the community must simply be removed, regardless of sanity. By placing the moral high ground in the hands of the guilty, Lang forces the audience to confront the thin line between the lawful and the outlaw. This diagram illustrates Lang's visual language. He relied on high-contrast chiaroscuro lighting, projecting long shadows from extreme overhead angles. Fleeing to the United States, German directors brought this aesthetic with them. These heavy shadows and tilted angles became the foundation for American film noir. Beyond the lighting, Lang showed Hollywood that the most terrifying threats are not supernatural entities, but ordinary people walking among us in broad daylight. Technical precision and psychological depth allow M to function as a foundation for nearly a century of cinematic thrillers. This was brought to you by Stalls or Circle. Thank you for listening.